This is the Texas STAAR 2013 geometry test, and this is question number 7. It says, on the map below, Main Street, 10th Street, and Highway 1 intersect to form a right triangle. The distance between 10th Street and Main Street along Highway 1 is 5.6 miles. Which measure is closest to the length of Main Street from Highway 1 to 10th Street? Okay, let me take the time to understand the problem. I see I've got a map and it's a right triangle. Also notice that they give me this angle of 40 degrees right there. The confusing part is right here, so let me just break that down. It says the distance between 10th Street and Main Street along Highway 1. So let's go along Highway 1 from 10th Street to Main Street. So that's this side. And that one they give us is 5.6 miles. And then we're trying to find, it says, which measure is closest to the length of Main Street from Highway 1 to 10th Street. So if I go along Main Street from 1 to 10th, then I get this line. And that's what we're trying to find. So maybe let's call that one X. Okay, so I've got a right triangle. I know one angle, I know one leg, and I'm trying to find the hypotenuse. So what does that look like to me? That looks like a trigonometry problem. So I think I understand what's going on pretty well. My plan, I'm going to use trigonometry to write an equation to solve for x. So let's do that right now. So if I look relative to my angle, so my angle's right here, and I look at that 5.6. Is that adjacent to the 40 degrees, or is it opposite the 40 degrees? Well, notice that it's not one of my red arms, my red rays of the angle. It's not on one of those rays, so it's not adjacent, it's opposite. And x is the longest side, so that's the hypotenuse. So which trig function involves opposite and hypotenuse? Well, that's sine. So I know the formula for sine. I can do sine of my angle equals opposite over hypotenuse. And I just got to plug in the values and the unknowns from this problem. So my angle, let's start with that was 40 degrees. Make sure your calculator's in degree mode. The opposite leg was the 5.6. And the hypotenuse was the x. So, a lot of students like to think of this as two fractions, sine 40 degrees over 1 and 5.6 over x, because then I can cross multiply and then divide by the sine 40. So I'm going to end up with x equals 1 times 5.6 divided by sine 40 degrees. Okay, let me grab my calculator. I get x is about 8.71 miles. Okay. I did what I said I was going to do. How could I check that? Well, first off, I noticed that that is one of the answer choices. If you round to the nearest tenth, I get exactly 8.7. So I'm going to circle A. Another thing I noticed is that 8.7 for x here is longer than 5.6. I would expect it to be longer because it is the hypotenuse. It's the longest side of that right triangle. Another thing I could do, I could go ahead and plug it in here. So I can do 5.6 divided by 8.71. And then take the inverse sine of that. So I know the sine of my angle is 5.6 over 8.7. So if I take the inverse sine, that should give me the angle back. So let me try that. And I get 40.06 degrees. Pretty close to original 40 degrees. So now I am certain that the answer is A, 8.7 miles. Okay, I hope that helps.